Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of the UKSG podcast. My name is Tom and today we're joined by Lorna Goudie. Lorna is an acquisitions coordinator at Edge Hill University and was also one of the sponsored places winners at last year's UKSG conference. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi Tom, thanks for having me.
Just to get us going with the podcast, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your current and some of your previous roles?
Yeah, sure. So currently I live in Liverpool with my little cat. As you mentioned, I'm acquisitions coordinator at Edge Hill University. To go back to sort of where it all began, I did my degrees in Liverpool. So I did an undergraduate degree in English and I did a postgraduate degree in Victorian literature. And at the time, quite a few people sort of said to me, "Oh, what are you going to do with that degree? What are you going to use that for?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just interested in it." And I only mention that because I think that's a really good um, sort of way to do life is to follow your interests and things.
Yeah.
So after my masters, I was working at Blackwell's bookshop, and to be honest, I didn't really know what to do with myself. I went to Prague for a month to do a TEFL course, which was, a great experience. But I only really did it because my friend was doing it. But it taught me a lot to think on my feet. It was good to do. I was really outside my comfort zone. Came back, obviously still didn't know what to do. I actually got a place at Edge Hill on a PGCE in English because I thought, well, I might as well be a teacher. I've always loved books, always loved literature, reading, so it seemed as good a thing as any. And then, fortunately for me, I saw an internship advertised at Gladstone's Library in North Wales. So if anyone hasn't heard of Gladstone's, I'd definitely look it up because it's a really nice place to visit. It's I don't know if it's the only UK prime ministerial residential library, but basically it's, there's the library there, but it's also accommodation as well. So for 9 months, I actually lived there,
Oh, wow.
whilst also doing my internship. Yeah, it was a great experience, and one that really sort of began my journey in libraries. So following that, I worked at Special Collections and Archives at the University of Liverpool. So I did a year traineeship, and because I'm not one to do things by halves, the point of the traineeship was sort of to work out whether you wanted to go into libraries or archives and then follow it up with, a professional qualification. But I think after my time at Gladstone's, I already knew libraries were for me. So I did my qualification at the same time, which might have been foolish, but I did it. And that was a distance learning library qualification with Northumbria. So did my qualification, did my traineeship at Special Collections, and then following that, I just had quite a lot of fixed term temporary roles, whether they were I did visitor assistant roles at the Maritime Museum and the Victoria Gallery Museum, also at University of Liverpool. I worked at Chester University in their library. They were just setting up the business school in the Hambridge site. I also did, trying to think, what else did I do? I worked as an assistant librarian for the NHS. Um, and, all great opportunities and all, taught me different things about library work, like the different sectors and things. And then I eventually, got my role at Edge Hill University as a senior information assistant and then progressed onto acquisitions coordinator. So I'm just coming up to 9 years now at Edge Hill University.
Sounds like you've worked in a lot of quite exciting and quite diverse roles. And you also attended the UKSG conference last year. Could you tell us a bit more about what you enjoyed most about attending the conference?
Yeah, so I was really grateful to be able to attend. It was a really good opportunity for me. I don't know whether I can say the vibes, but that's what I'm gonna say. The general feeling, it's hard to articulate, but the whole feeling of the conference, sorry, was brilliant, really. I think everyone's willingness to talk and share, obviously it's expected from the talks, people will share their own experience, but what really came across was the authenticity. So it wasn't just people standing up, presenting, saying, look at all the wonderful things we've done, look at all the things that have gone right. People were sharing when things had gone wrong too, and the experiences they learned from it. And that was really valuable to me. And I think, especially as a first timer, I think being able to meet other people that were attending for the first time, and I mean, people might get from this podcast, but I'm a chronic oversharer. So I think that helps, that I'm always willing to share things about myself. So hopefully that puts other people at their ease. But even despite that, the whole conference really felt like a safe space. I think everyone was just checking to make sure you were okay, you weren't too overwhelmed. And yeah, whether it was attending the talks or talking to other delegates or, talking to the reps as well, it just felt really comfortable, being yourself.
Was there anything in particular that you took away from the conference or any key takeaways?
Yeah, so probably quite a few. But I think something really stuck with me. I think it was in the AI plenary. But someone said you can't control the future, but we can control how we behave. And I mean, it's not even something I just apply into my working life, but like my personal life as well. I just thought it was a really good line. I wrote it, I highlighted it. And I think the whole sort of, as I mentioned about the authenticity, was it it really sort of gave me an opportunity to think about how we can, in our current roles, develop ourselves. And especially in the past year, there's been so many challenges. And I mean, the challenges really have been relentless, as I'm sure, other people will know in their own roles. But generally, not always, but I do try to view them more as opportunities now. And it's how we sort of respond to these to get the best out of them, rather than just becoming, frustrated and overwhelmed, which, is valid too.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a really key message.
And you just touched on this next question a bit in your previous answer, but has your career or do you think your role has changed as a result of change of attending the conference?
Yeah, sure. So I think certainly my confidence within my role has definitely developed. I think I don't tend to, I was going to say worry as much, or even at all really. I certainly don't sweat the small stuff anymore. I think I've never been particularly, I really enjoy my role because as acquisitions coordinator, where I sort of sit is sort of within the middle of our collections and archives team. So I really enjoy, being a support for our senior information assistants, and also for our acquisitions team leader, and our subscriptions and licensing manager. So I like, that I can be involved with quite a lot of things within my team. And I really value the relationship I have with, students and staff in terms of fixing their problems and troubleshooting e-resource inquiries. And I think in terms of developing that role, I've sort of learned that there's so many opportunities within it. So I've never been particularly ambitious, and I think it's really enough to have a job you really enjoy that gives you purpose. But by attending the conference, I'm learning that even within that role, there's ways to progress, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I'm leaning a bit more into areas of interest, obviously the daily job still needs to be done. But coming up with ideas, asking to be shown things. I think previously maybe there might have been things. I mean, I mentioned e-resources that I've shied away from and just thought, no, can't do that, not for me. Like I'm just not wired that way, or I'm not capable of it. But actually sort of trying to meet things with curiosity and having a go. And like I say, undertaking the CPD, asking my colleagues, oh, can you show me how you do that? Can I get more involved in that? Um, so I think the role, irrespective of the conference, has changed. It does change by the day, as we change suppliers and processes and all those kind of things. So I think the role changes itself, but certainly my attitude towards it has definitely improved as well. I feel like every day I'm growing and developing, without even seeking the next promotion, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, that's really fantastic to hear. And it's really great to hear what you've taken away from the conference and how it's just helped you with kind of within your own role, and kind of your own aspirations for having a fulfilling career. Do you have any tips for people who might be listening to this podcast who are thinking, or might apply to attend the conference as a bursary place, or who are planning on attending the conference for the first time?
Yeah, so I think if you were thinking of going for it for the scholarship, I'd say absolutely just have a go. I think when my a couple of my colleagues within my team mentioned it to me and said, "Oh, we've seen this, we think you should have a go." You do sort of think again, this is the imposter syndrome talking, but you think, oh well, I'm never going to be awarded that. I'm never going to be successful. And then I think knowing how busy we can all get, the actual, day to day, the inboxes are full, the tasks are building up. And I think it was the day before the deadline, and I still hadn't done anything about it. And I just thought, oh, blow it, just, have a go. Like, what is there to lose? And obviously, I was awarded it, and I wouldn't have been able to go, without the scholarship. So I was so grateful to get it. But I think, even with my attitude, like, oh, what's the point? Like, there's always a point, and you've genuinely got nothing to lose. So I just say to anyone thinking about it, always have a go. In terms of doing the application and answering the questions, obviously you'll have your own opinions and thoughts about the most significant factors dominating the sector, but talk to your colleagues, like speak up in meetings, like feel free to sort of read the room and get a feeling like how is everyone else feeling. Like when I went to the conference, I did the application and I spoke up quite a lot about AI and how, I felt like we needed to be prepared for it, but also I felt like we were being quite reactive and how hard it was to prepare for something that you don't know enough about, maybe. And I think, don't be sort of afraid of what you don't know. It's okay to speak up about that and be honest. And I found like at the conference how many people were actually feeling the same way. So, that sort of thing can go into the application. And also, if you're fortunate enough to get there, or, you're not going for a scholarship, you're going as a delegate, just keep a really open mind. And I think, as a result of the conference and the people I've met, there's been so many other opportunities from it for me, like doing this podcast, for example. um, and one of the women I met at the conference, she's at Hope University. We were able, due to our proximity, for her to come and actually visit at Edge Hill. And I think it was a really great experience for my colleagues to talk to her about specifically their interlibrary loan processes and, how we do things differently at each institution, and to share tips and all these things, whether it's the podcast or it's that, wouldn't have happened without going to the conference. And I think even having a network, people you can reach out to if you want a bit more support, on things, yes, you can excuse me, yes, you can ask your immediate team, but there might be connections you make there that become really useful to you. So I would definitely say, keep an open mind, have a go. You've got nothing, nothing to lose. And I really don't think anyone would regret doing it at all.
It's been lovely speaking to you and hearing about your experiences and what advice you have to others as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much, Tom. Speak soon.